welcome to season 3 of the Let's Ruin It podcast, where we take your favorite pop culture media, put a legal spin on it, and like all lawyers, we ruin it. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Jenny. I'm joined by my wonderful co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Diana.
And I am Liz.
And we are here for a whole new season. That's right. It's now season 3.
It's our season premiere.
We wanted to kick off this fun, brand new season.
The fun movie.
With a real fun movie. First of all, we are going to thank our friend Meredith.
Thank
who
you.
Has really been pushing for this movie, has really been promoting hard, and we finally decided to do it because honestly, it's a great movie.
Great movie.
Great movie. And of course, we are talking about Primal Fear. With Ed Norton and Richard Gere. And this was Ed Norton's debut.
I know.
By the way.
It's amazing.
Blew me
really
away.
just like, what a start to Hollywood.
For real. I became such an Ed Norton fan.
He was nominated, and I think he won an Oscar for this, if I'm not mistaken. But
okay,
it was,
wow, really? You got to throw that out there when
so sorry.
talk about that? I don't know.
So sorry.
You know, I have never seen this film up until we were doing it for this podcast.
I'm
when Meredith was
so
suggesting
surprised.
the movie, I was like, I don't know. Okay, I don't know anything about that movie. And then I mentioned it to you guys, and you're like, of course. And then I mentioned it to my husband. He's like, oh, it's a great movie for that. I'm going to argue that this is a bad title for the movie. Primal Fear, to me, sounds like a horror movie.
Okay.
And so I was like, well,
I'll give you that.
Is it about law? And I was like, yeah, it's all about law. And I was like, is it scary? He's like, well, no. And I was like, in my mind,
It is bloody,
I'm
though.
picturing Prometheus. When you say Primal Fear, I'm picturing some sort of horrible creature.
Okay.
Primal Fear is just not the right
I mean, I guess that's a good
title.
point.
You know what? Yeah, I can see that. It is kind of like a not really related to the topic kind of a title.
Well, it's like a scary movie.
But maybe the primal part of it all is his like sort of primal instincts and the Roy
You're stretching.
Aaron of it all.
I don't know, man.
I propose they rename this movie.
All right, that's fine.
I take that I will take that under consideration.
movie-
What, 40 years later? I don't know.
30 years.
30 years.
96.
Yes,
So,
30
and we're in
years.
2026.
Oh,
It's a 30-year anniversary.
Oh, wow. But I will
I
say,
didn't need to hear that.
this
No.
movie made me such an Ed Norton fan.
It's amazing.
He is
Incredible.
amazing. And I have loved this stuff,
Yes,
forever
he's so
ever
good.
after that. It's
And
tremendous.
this is 3
Tremendous.
years before Fight Club,
Yes.
right? And I mean, he just has like, if you go on his IMDb, it like starts with this, like what a debut movie.
Yes.
And then just continues on the most amazing run of movies.
He has American History X, which is
They're
great.
soon after
Yeah.
this one.
Which again is kind of like all his movies are very character driven, which I love. Like
I
it's
always
all
love
about
the
the
Italian
interesting
Job,
character.
which is not at all this type. Well, it's sort of
Okay.
this type of character, but I mean, I just
Yeah.
love that movie.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just a fun movie.
he's great. He's tremendous. I think he's a tremendous actor.
We were so excited that you were going to watch this for the first
Yes.
time
I
because it
was.
is hard to find someone who hasn't seen this movie
Yes,
yet,
apparently.
and who hasn't read the twist,
I
where
know.
the twist
I didn't
hasn't
know.
been ruined.
I didn't know.
And so we were very excited for you to actually
Yes.
have that like moment.
And I did, although I felt like at some point during the movie, I turned to my husband and I was like, is he faking it? And then
Spoiler alert!
I mean, if you have not seen this movie,
After 30
Even
years,
Diana now has seen it.
maybe do not listen to this particular
No,
episode.
don't ever give that sort of suggestion.
Just skip this part. Too late. But I was like, maybe he's faking it. And then he's like, just keep watching the movie.
Yeah.
And then as soon as at the very end, spoiler alert, when it comes to light that he is not, two different personalities. And he says, well, I sure do hope that nice, lawyer lady is okay and that her neck's okay. As soon as he said that, even before Richard Gere dawns on him, I was like, well, then he knows. Then he remembers the attack happening. So clearly, and so it was like, it was a twist, but I was getting there on my own as opposed to when we were just talking about another movie, The Usual Suspects. And if you have not seen this movie, skip 1 minute ahead. But that particular twist, that one was just like, I didn't see it coming. Huge gasp at the end.
No, it's funny that you say that because that was the first thing in my notes. I wrote similar to Usual Suspects
This to me, this to me is sort of up there with The Usual Suspects, with The Sixth Sense. It is that sort of gasp out loud.
Yeah.
That like it just hits and you're like, oh, that was good, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, really showcases how
I'm
amazing
gonna
an
say-
actor he is.
And I know we kind of jumped
We'll get into
ahead.
the summary
We kind
of
of
it.
jumped ahead to the end, but I want to ask you guys, as an attorney, right? That hit hard to me. right? It hit hard. I'm going to tell you why. It hit hard because when you feel like you have been lied to by your client that you have had this relationship with, like he started to care about this client.
Well, that was
he
his
didn't
own
want
fault.
him to be on the death penalty. Like he got invested. Yeah, but Jenny, we get invested in our clients' cases, okay? And when stuff doesn't go the way that you thought it would go, it's hard to not. That was to me the end was a gut punch.
And I think we've all been there, not to this extent.
No.
But we've all been there with clients where there was something that was not truthfully communicated to us or disclosed, and that usually comes out during the course of the case, not afterwards, like in this movie. But you're like, ugh, like I worked so hard on that research based on this.
Well, let's come back to this later. As we sort of go through the storyline, we'll talk about all of that. But let's talk about what the actual movie is about and how we got here, sitting around this table talking about these brilliant actors. So really at the core of it, this movie is about Marty Vail, played by Richard Gere, who is a high-powered defense attorney. He used to be a prosecutor. He's now flipped to the other side.
Happens a lot.
Which is,
and there has been a very high-profile murder in the city of Chicago. The Archbishop is brutally murdered, chopped up into pieces, mutilated, just really nasty murder. And the prime suspect is a 19-year-old altar boy played by Ed Norton.
Who just happens to be covered in blood.
His
They
name
find
is
him.
Aaron.
And he's running from the crime
Aaron
scene.
Stampler.
Yes. Covered in blood.
Right. Right.
Is apprehended eventually.
Right. And so we kind of jump into all of this because, let's jump into a sort of minor issue, but I do want to talk about it. The fact that Richard Gere's character shows up at the jail and is like, hey, buddy, I'm your lawyer now.
Well, he's like, I want to represent you. And he's like,
all
sure,
right.
mister, that sounds great. And then they start talking about the case and he's asking him about like the day of the murder. Now, in real life, an attorney-client relationship doesn't form instantly like that just because of a quick conversation or quick comment. There's usually official steps taken. So, there'd be a conflicts check, there would be a written agreement. There's a whole slew of things that happen before you really sit down and say, now let's talk about what happened the day of that murder. And so not the biggest issue in this movie, but not realistic.
It was also kind of like ambulance chaser vibes to me, right?
Definitely.
He was
You're
giving
not supposed
very
to just go to the
ambulance
jail
chaser.
and be like, let me talk to you and tell you.
Well, and he kind of like preludes that. Look, and you get the insight from the beginning that he is kind of looking for fame.
Sure.
At the beginning of it, he is being interviewed for a big
mover and a shaker.
magazine, piece. He's loving it. He's giving these little tidbits about how
Going to galas.
He creates the narrative and like the truth. What's the truth? He's very much, and it really, really reminded me of Richard Gere, the attorney in Chicago,
right?
Which this also takes place in Chicago. It was give him the old razzle
dazzle.
dazzle. That's exactly what he's like. It's like, I'm creating the narrative. He goes in, he says, "What's your suit size? What's this? What's that?" Like he's building the persona.
And that movie's like 5 years after this movie.
He's
probably.
building the narrative that he wants to feed to the jury, to the public, and all that stuff. And that is the kind of lawyer that he is.
And with that said, and with this entire mentality that he has of, I don't care whether the client is guilty or not.
Right.
That's not my business. My business is to defend the client. My business is to get the client off the hook. And he then, completely against his own advice, starts to care about the client and starts to believe the client and starts to want to actually prove this kid's innocence, right? And this kid is this very sheltered boy with a stutter who is from Kentucky and who has whose mother was dead and whose father mistreated him and and was abused as a child.
And then he was homeless for a while, and then the Archbishop finds him on the street and gives him like this role as an altar boy and lets him move into his house. And he's like, "Oh, he saved my life." And I have to give props to Aaron, like the psychopath, because he doesn't lead with that. He doesn't say, I become two different people. It must have been. It's like that comes out slowly and is discovered by the psychiatrist, which we'll get into the psychiatrist later, and Richard Gere. Like they slowly figure this out about Aaron. He doesn't like push it on them. Like as his character as a psychopath is fantastic. He really like dots all his I's.
Well, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to hit some like major points that this movie brought out for us as lawyers from the legal perspective of what exactly are we ruining here. Because acting wise, top notch. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal.
But then we've got the very, very big legal issues. And I would say number one legal issue, the actual court proceedings, the actual legal trial.
It's like a fairy tale.
Right.
Yes.
Like the actual legality of it all, I think, is a huge thing that really ruined it for us.
Yes.
And then number two, I think for me, and let me know if you guys agree or not, are Richard Gere's obligations as his lawyer. Current lawyer, past lawyer,
Right.
and what his ethical obligations are to his client.
Obligation issues, ethical issues. Yes.
Yes. What else do you guys think comes across in terms of what are we ruining?
This movie really exemplifies the sensationalizing of like the legal process where there's gotcha moments in a trial, and that like gotcha moments really don't happen in a trial. There's no surprise witness. There's no surprise evidence. There's generally few surprises in a trial, even a criminal trial. And so this movie is like a perfect example of why I think people who are not in the law expect that this is possible. Like this is how it happens.
Right.
It's like that like big surprise that totally turns the case.
Right. And I think why we spend a lot of our times as lawyers disabusing clients of the notion that the TV is not how it
Law
is
and
in
order
real life.
is not how it happens in real life.
And why clients are like, well, why haven't we gone to trial yet? And it's like, because it's been 6 months and we'll see you in 3 years. Because there's a reason why, the wheels of justice turn slowly is because there's so much procedural stuff that happens beforehand.
So for me, okay, so let's dive into it. So issue number one, the legality of it all and the way that the court process runs. For me, this was reminiscent to me of what we talked about in Double Jeopardy, which, by the way, was our season opener for season 2.
What?
So is
I
this
didn't
a
even
pattern?
know that.
Oh, wow.
Is this a pattern?
Then I guess we have to wait 1 year to do Usual Suspects.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, so to me, it was kind of like Double Jeopardy. And I mean, I think this is it's like on a different level of filmmaking, this movie. But I think from the sense that everything was so inaccurate and just not the way it works in Double Jeopardy and here.
Yes, I don't think it's as bad as Double Jeopardy.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. What I would say is on a comparison level, I would say there's issues with it. It's not as bad as Double Jeopardy.
Double
Jeopardy was like a joke.
That movie is literally based on an inaccurate premise.
Correct.
Yes. Right.
Completely inaccurate premise. Well, this at least they tried. No. There were some aspects of it that they were trying to get it right, but they just, for entertainment purposes, it was too much.
So starting with, for me, the number one thing that I think really just ruins all of it is that they basically go to trial without having done any sort of legitimate discovery. It seems like they've done some discovery on a very kind of superficial level. But there is no discovery that has been exchanged, that's been done. And we're talking about huge pieces of evidence.
Right, because crucial evidence and revelations, they just emerge throughout the trial. Right?
They're already at trial. They're doing opening arguments. They've got witnesses on the stand.
Right.
And no one's exchanged discovery. No. So what are we talking about by discovery? Discovery is evidence that you gather during the process leading up to trial. You're supposed to
disclose what you're relying upon at the trial so that each side can take a look at it, each side can prepare to address it adequately. Yeah. You can't just spring something on people.
It's not even just like the evidence that it's not even just disclosing it, it's the preparation of that evidence.
It's finding that evidence.
You are taking depositions of witnesses that you plan to call later at trial. You are then, not only are you taking the deposition, but then you have to mark the parts of the deposition that you plan to use, and you have to share those parts with the other side.
Yes.
And so someone can say something in a deposition before the trial, and if you didn't mark that and disclose that you're going to be using that to the other side, you don't get to introduce that at trial, even though you sat for an official deposition that was likely filmed. There's so many nuances and rules to this. You have an evidence list that you are sharing with the other side, so there's no surprise here's this book that I found. No, they know.
And I was just gonna say, I think that's the one thing all three of us agreed on. Our number one error was how does the defense not know about this book,
the Scarlet Letter,
and what the numbers meant? That there was a private library that the bishop had that the reference is the Scarlet Letter book in the passage.
So the numbers that Liz is talking about is
insane.
when the Archbishop's body was fully mutilated, into his chest were carved a series of letters and numbers.
Right.
And it was something like, I forget what it was. It was like
I wrote it down. It was
B30, I don't know.
B18 point.
Well, they thought it was B32.156.
Correct.
Turned out it was actually 832.156.
So I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen this movie probably since I saw it originally when it came out when I was a teenager. I had zero recollection about these carvings, that it was a book. I had no knowledge. And as soon as they brought out this carving, I was like, guys, that looks like the Dewey Decimal System. Can someone find a book that's with these numbers and letters?
Oh, and I think it was like the opposite. It was like they originally thought it was a B, and then somebody said, but
it was an 8.
But I actually think, no, but I thought she said, I think it's actually an 8. And then later they realized, I guess it was a B. Like there was a line.
They realized this after it comes out that this was a book.
Yes.
Well, they do realize it's a book, but they go to the library. They don't go to the Archbishop's
because
library.
they don't know about
it.
Right.
They don't know.
One side cannot just have access to this secret library and know about a secret library and pull evidence from it and not disclose any of that.
So the
to the other
That's not
side.
going to happen. That can't happen.
So the prosecutor discovers that the Archbishop has a secret library, and as part of that secret library, there is a book with that
Dewey Decimal.
Dewey Decimal number system, whatever. And it happens to be The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And there is a passage that is underlined in this book that it becomes very relevant as part of their, it becomes key evidence for the prosecution. And they bring it out literally in the middle of the trial. They bring out the book. They say what this book refers. Complete surprise. They say what this refers to, what these numbers refer to. That it was a book in the secret library, and you can see Richard Gere clearly had no idea what's going on.
And he flipped his shit
on his
people.
associate.
Right.
But he flipped his shit on his people. He should have been flipping his shit on the prosecution,
Right,
and
like
the judge,
how do you
and
not
the
know
judge
this?
for allowing
and
it.
the judge for allowing it. Number one,
Right.
yeah.
He would have had, not only would he have had like mention of this on an evidence list, he would have had opportunity to examine the book, have an expert examine the book, handwriting specialist to see, it's underlined in this way. Would that have been the defendant's
But also, presumably,
underlining?
they can do fingerprints off of the book to
For
see
sure.
But they didn't do that, though, which I found really
Who's
interesting.
been handling the book?
Right.
Yeah.
My other part with that particular scene that was extremely problematic was her line of questioning about it. She's questioning the
Police
officer who did the investigation, who found the thing, and is kind of like, so what do you think it means?
Yeah, right.
What?
Okay. And I mean, this part made
I know,
my
I'm going to let
blood
you take it because I know we
boil.
were very heated about this. You do it.
It's like she asks him, like, what does that passage like mean to you? What do you think that it's saying? And then rightfully, Richard Gere objects.
Yes, I thought that was an excellent objection.
Great.
Absolutely.
Like, he's not an expert in this. Like,
He's not an English professor. He's a
not
cop.
Right. And so then, and then the judge wrongfully decides to overrule that objection instead of sustain it, like she should have, because what she's saying is basically, well, because the prosecutor says, I'm not asking him as an expert, just as a regular witness, like what he himself personally feels.
And so
then the objection is
don't
relevancy.
care. Right.
You're
I
objecting
don't
because it's
care.
irrelevant. Okay, maybe the argument for the objection changes, but it should still be a sustained objection.
It should have been
Agreed.
sustained 100%. Like, who gives a shit what his opinion is of that?
So this book, the passage from the book, the detective's testimony as to what he thinks the passage from the book means and how it potentially relates to this case. To me, it's all circumstantial. It's irrelevant to this story.
Irrelevant is what I would say more. Yeah.
Well, circumstantial in the sense of you now assume that in fact these numbers refer to this book, and you now assume that whoever the murderer was also underlined this passage. I mean, all of that could be coincidence, right? Maybe
Absolutely.
somebody else underlined it. There's just so many other different scenarios.
Like, even if you have decided that this is like that the carvings in the body was reference to this book, again, like you said, like maybe it's just a book as a whole,
right?
But then you go through the book and you're like, well, one passage is underlined. Who
were there any other passages underlined?
Right, and then how many people had access? Like, you should be interviewing every single person who was an altar boy or part of like the parish. Like, who else had access to this library? Like, the leaps that they make.
Yes. Well, which is why I said circumstantial, because there could just be so many other explanations for this. So that was huge issue.
Huge
for
issue.
us.
Second huge issue.
Yeah.
The tape.
my God.
tape. So we learn throughout the course again of the trial. The trial has already started. That the Archbishop had not only a library of books, but a library of videotapes, of VHS tapes, if whoever is out there remembers those. That had like little labels on them.
Hey, I still have a VHS player
do?
just to play those old suckers because they're fun.
Goodness.
We like to get our retro on every now and again. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
We learn of the existence of a tape. By the way, how do we learn about it? Well, Marty, Richard Gere, his investigator.
Cool.
His investigator goes to
His PI, Andre Bauer.
Right.
Wonderful. R.I.P. I love him.
Nine-Nine. I love him so much.
I can't believe seeing him this young. I was like,
I know.
So young.
I didn't even recognize him.
Yes, for a second it threw me, and I was like, wait.
No, and I went, I know him. And I had to look up the cast, and I went, oh, that's who it is.
Yes.
And in looking him up, I found out that he was one of People Magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People in the World, 1997, a year after this movie.
Oh, okay.
So he basically he plays the firm's PI, private investigator, and he shows up to Aaron's apartment,
Used
which,
to
by
be
the
a
way,
cop.
used to be a cop.
Found that tidbit in there.
But hold on. Can you just show up to a crime suspect's apartment? I would have to assume that it's probably blocked off. That
It also didn't seem like anyone had gone
through it.
No, which was completely bizarre.
You have someone in custody who's being tried for a murder.
Where the death penalty is on the table.
The cops would have, at
Destroyed
this point,
their
everything, every single fingerprint. Like, who has been in this apartment?
Actually, that didn't make sense to me because I had the impression he was still at Savior House, so I didn't even understand why he had a separate room, like place.
Is it?
So that kind of confused me.
Was it part of some you know
like
what?
a halfway house? I don't know.
Like, was Savior House part of that?
Maybe.
You know what? I don't know. Good point.
But they would have still
confusing to
known
me.
about it. They would have known.
And they absolutely should have gone.
They would have known every address that he might be affiliated with or where he has stayed, and they would have gone. There would have been no object left in this apartment by that point
That had not
hasn't
been
been
overturned.
either taken into evidence or has been examined fully. I mean, everything.
So basically, the PI shows up there, and there's someone in the apartment.
There's a fight with. We later find out is Alex,
another
altar boy. And they get into a fight, and he runs off, and then they find him. Marty and the PI track him down, find him, and there's this whole chase scene where they're chasing him through the streets of Chicago and into like underground lairs
and the homeless shelter or whatever.
No, it's like
Can I tell you guys something? I actually have a very distinct memory of this movie solidifying for me that I do not want to be a defense attorney because I was like, I don't want to.
I don't want to run.
I'm not doing that.
No, I don't want to chase people.
First of all, though, do you think that's what criminal attorneys do you know are chasing down people?
When I saw
at the age of 12, when she saw this movie
when it came out, and so by that point, I had this like notion that I'm going to be this like great amazing
not
attorney.
A defense attorney because I'd have to chase people through the streets.
I swear to you, I remember being like, no, not a defense attorney. Because I thought in my mind, I was like, is that what they do?
I want to be running down
Look at
alleyways.
He's getting beat up.
Jenny, to answer that question, no, that's not what they do.
No, at least they're not supposed to.
Right, they're not supposed to.
There was so many levels of wrong. And then at the end, the investigator guy who used to be a cop
arrests him.
Oh yeah.
Like, and the kid is like, you can't arrest me. You're not a cop. And he goes,
I used to be. Is that good enough for you?
I don't care. No,
it's not.
It's not good enough.
It's not.
It's not good enough. I've seen cop shows. That doesn't mean that I can arrest you. That's like the same thing.
Right. I can't put you in citizen's arrest.
Right.
With like zip ties or something. Like, what do you know? What is happening
the whole
here?
thing was absurd. Oh
Absolutely
my God.
absurd. But so basically, after they chase him down and like really beat the shit out of him, they get him to confess that the reason he was in Aaron's apartment was because he was trying to get back a videotape. And so now there's this, we now learn that there's this existence of a videotape. And what's on the videotape? Basically the Archbishop forcing Aaron, his girlfriend, and this other kid, Alex, to
engage in sexual acts.
Yeah.
For his own gratification he's directing the movie.
Correct.
You know, do this to her, do that, take him in your mouth. I mean, it was graphic.
And I want to note something that I didn't even put in my notes and that we didn't discuss, but like later on, and it's a little jump, but like later on when they're discussing this tape in the courtroom, and either the judge or the prosecutor says, well, I guess we'll see like after recess when we all view this tape. It's like, I don't think allowed to show a pornographic tape in the courtroom, just like to an open audience without like the consent and knowledge of the participants?
I think it would have to probably be shown like under like the media probably wouldn't be able to be there,
or anyone in the courtroom besides like the specific parties. Like they would they would close it.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of
like
that was a little
there's
bit.
nudity in that video. We see the video.
Yeah, we saw part of it.
There's explicit like there's nudity, there's explicit sexual acts. Like you would not just be able to be like, let's just see like this video with like 3 people in it who have not consented to showing this video.
Yeah.
To this whole courtroom.
Yeah.
Then we get into the even more problematic areas of this movie. Because the next thing he decides he's going to do is they're going to go traipsing all up into the crime scene.
And find the video.
Why has no one cataloged any of these videos? That is the crappiest police work I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They should have already cataloged and seen what was on every single
an intern
thing.
should have watched
Some
every
schmuck,
video there.
Right. Some schmuck in the prosecutor's office
absolutely
should have done that.
There's always a law school intern working at the prosecutor's
And that's
office.
usually when you're a law school intern, your job might just be sitting around and watching VHS tapes and making notes.
But here's the other thing. When they arrest this kid, right? He's literally covered in blood. And the blood analysis shows that it's the Archbishop's blood. And like they're like, we got our guy, man. But what they don't have is they don't have a motive.
Right.
And so why are you not turning over every nook and cranny and trying to figure out what is this kid's motive? And yes, I know that these videos have like probably different names on them, and it probably says
The Lion King.
Right. But presumably you're giving it to every intern being like, I need you to pop this in and make sure that it is
just
because
the label
Why
says
would you not? Is that not Forensics 101?
I don't know,
to
man.
catalog and inventory the crime scene in detail?
No, they did nothing.
They did nothing.
They didn't go to the defendant's apartment.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's
so
insane.
bizarre.
Insane.
And so Marty shows up.
And then they can see, we're going to post a guard downstairs. And and don't touch anything. Don't do anything.
Are you kidding
my
me?
ass. That was it. That's it.
And so he goes, Richard Gere, Marty walks right in there, pulls the tape out, knows exactly which tape he needs. And by the way, how did he know which tape
I don't know.
Right. They don't make that clear.
And
then he replaces it with a different tape.
Because he literally was going, that's the one.
The kid, Alex, said that there was one tape and he just used it over and over again. But again, how would he?
There were so many tapes
there. Right.
My interpretation of it was that the sticker that said the name on the side was a little loose. That's why it was so easy for him to peel off. That's why you could see him like touching each sticker as he's going across.
But why would that matter? Oh, meaning he like
because
replaced...
that's the retaped
put the new name
one?
on it.
Okay.
But I feel like you don't have to replace the sticker
Maybe.
in order to keep retaping over it. You just always have it labeled The Lion King.
And it's not like he's replacing the sticker with each new sex tape. It's not
not
like he's
like
saying
next sex
Alter
tape.
Boy 3 sex tape,
Right.
Alter Boy 4 sex tape. Like,
New position.
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
So, I mean, I think it's clearly done for dramatic effect, and he gets
But
lucky.
that's really a good note that, like, yes, he does,
But
like...
he took the tape,
He looks at...
copied it,
Yeah.
and supposedly put it back. That's the story that we're given. He tampered with a crime scene.
Oh, million
Tampered with a crime
percent.
scene.
That's a mistrial
is that?
and a disbarment.
Yeah, and then when that's, like, come to light that, like, he had this video, no one's asked, like... There
How
should
the
be
hell did you get
like,
it,
There
sir?
should be an entire, like, hearing on that. There should be, like... I mean, the judge...
And so now,
lets it all through.
So let's assume that does happen. They are like, wait a minute, where did you get this videotape?
Right.
And does it then become fruits of spoiled
The fruit of the poisonous
That's
tree?
the
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
You know,
I would think
don't
so.
know because
He gets it in a very illegal way.
Illegally obtained evidence is then not admissible because of the way that it was obtained.
Right.
Because that's why we use that term
Right.
of, like, fruits of the poisonous tree.
I was just trying to figure out what the poisonous tree was.
The poisonous tree there is that, like,
he gets it
improperly.
He gets it improperly. I think he could be very much disbarred for the fact that he's tampering with evidence.
Oh, sure.
And so not only does he get it improperly, he then doesn't really properly even share it.
No.
No.
He doesn't disclose it.
He drops it like a bomb
On the
prosecutor's
Played
doorstep.
very well by Laura Linney, by the way. We didn't even touch upon her.
She's great.
She's great.
She's great.
I couldn't figure out. Okay,
What?
so here was my impression of Laura Linney. She was good at her job, but otherwise appeared unstable to me.
Yes.
Right?
Because she was trying to have a cigarette.
Chain
She was trying to have a cigarette everywhere. She
Right,
was like,
constantly chain smoking, couldn't figure out what she wanted with Martin Vail or not,
Can I-
and she just seemed really unhinged.
Yeah.
like,
Can
I
through
just
the
ask
whole
a
movie.
question?
Yeah.
Do you find us as lawyers generally hinged, or
name one lawyer
that you know that's hinged.
That you're like, they've got everything together.
Those
working
hinges
fine.
are perfectly
They're very
oiled,
very loosely put together. Is that what you're saying?
Like I hear you.
Yeah.
I see you.
She's like,
I don't hold it against
she's
her.
a
You know what I mean?
prosecutor. Like her life is
Hard.
Yeah.
Her life is hard. That's why she's trying to like smoke in like kindergarten classes, like everywhere she
Yeah.
can. You know, like it's like, yeah. I don't know. I see what you're saying though. She was great though in this movie.
Yes, she was.
But
by the way, clearly still has feelings for him.
Of course.
Right? And he for her, but I think more her for him. Because I think
Richard Gere.
I think he likes the chase of it all with her.
I know. I love their dynamic. I loved everything. Like
No,
when she
I don't know because
referred to
it was interesting because later in the movie you don't find out why, but there's the sense that he left the prosecutor's office because he was basically asked to do something he didn't like morally agree with,
Which
and then
is
he
shocking.
left, and he was kind of disappointed in her that
she didn't leave.
too.
And he keeps saying like, when are you going to leave? Like,
Right. So it was interesting. So I don't feel like he's not as interested in her as she is in him. He's not quite as shallow as he portrays himself to be, maybe at the beginning. It was interesting. I thought it made for an interesting character arc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
I didn't understand why they couldn't just like disclose the video. Like in the end, the way the video came out in the courtroom
really bizarre.
still made it clear that it was their side that obtained the video, like that it was the
and by
defense
the way,
attorney
the
who
way
obtained it.
the way that
Why
came
did they
out,
have to do that drop at her door?
the way that it came out is that the prosecutor then calls Marty's private investigator as a witness. By the way, he has not been subpoenaed. Right? You can't just call someone as a witness. He has not been properly subpoenaed to testify.
Right.
Because he's not her witness.
So that was the bigger
would be an
problem
adverse
is they
witness. He's an
adverse
they
witness.
are unexpected witnesses, which is problematic as a whole.
Sure.
But I did think that the judge handled it correctly in the sense of it's his privilege to waive because it's his investigator. So Marty Vail had to agree to allow him to be, but it was part of his grand plan to get the tape in anyway.
to allow it.
So it was fine. The scene where he actually got questioned was very funny because he didn't know what to say. He was like, allegedly? That was funny.
That was great.
The whole thing was really funny.
And then he's looking at Marty.
I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Which, by the way, like, I mean, I guess it was surreptitious enough.
There was definitely,
that, like,
no, it
that
wasn't.
No, it was enough that maybe the judge didn't notice, but if they did notice, like, if you look like you're coaching your
Marty's
witness.
absolutely coaching him on the stand.
Yeah,
100%.
but, like, either she didn't notice it,
Or she lets it slide.
but you're not supposed to.
The
Like, you're not allowed to be like,
the prosecutor
don't
knew
answer
what
that
was
one.
going on. She knew exactly what he was doing, so she turned it around and tried to throw it back in his face.
Yeah.
By doing it that way. It was complete machinations in the courtroom that should never have been allowed.
Because even if you're right that it was Marty's privilege to waive, sure, the witness was improperly called to testify in the first place.
Right.
I have no idea what
because it's not even just Marty's, like the rights of Marty and the defense. It's
the
also
client.
it's a client's rights, but also it's the PI's rights. Like,
Yes.
to not be called as a surprise witness when you have not had sufficient time to confer with counsel or just prepare in general. You're not allowed to just be like, I mean, what if he wasn't in the courtroom that day? You know,
It's obviously all for the drama
dramatic
of it all.
effect. Yes.
And with that improper witness and surprise witness calling, we now then Marty sort of flips it and calls Fraser's dad. That's obviously not his
John
character's
Mahoney,
name.
John
Shaughnessy. Right.
Shaughnessy,
Who used to be the
Fraser's
head,
dad. No, sorry.
who used to be the head of the prosecutors.
Yes.
When Martin Vail was a prosecutor.
Right.
So it was his boss at some point. Clearly no love lost. That's why he left
hate
the
each other.
prosecutor's office, because of shit that Shaughnessy wanted him, I guess, to do.
Right.
And that's why he left. Now, Shaughnessy's not the head anymore. The impression I got is he's even higher up now.
He's now like a
some kind
police
of
commissioner.
or something
But he's
like
definitely
that.
like pulling strings, and he's a
pulling the
puppeteer.
strings. He absolutely is. He absolutely is. And so he decides I'm just going to call him after his other client, which was a complete sort of story plot in this movie.
Like a
gives you
crime boss.
It was kind of the overarching theme about the politics and the corruption that obviously goes on in the justice system. Ooh, shocker. Hope I'm not revealing too much here.
Spoiler.
But like the politicians are calling the shots. And even from the get-go, Shaughnessy said, this kid's getting the death penalty. I don't want any pleas. Even at the end, there will be no mistrial. He calls calls the judge and says there will be no mistrial.
Yep. Right.
Okay, so he's clearly pulling the strings. It shows the influence, the corruption, the what have you.
And he's very much tied into a whole bunch of shit that was happening with the Archbishop and the Catholic Church owned land, and then there was just
and they were trying to develop the land, and they lost like $60 million when the deal went south because the Archbishop pulled the plug on the deal.
Right.
So there was a lot of hard feelings. It was actually super smart to call him as a witness, and I thought it was great because you could see other people had motives to kill the Archbishop.
Of course.
So if that was part of the strategy, I think it was brilliant.
And he called him right after he found out that the
crime
guy had been killed. And clearly it was some sort of
malfeasance. I mean, it was a hit.
It was a hit.
They absolutely put a hit on him. It's not the first time they tried to kill him.
Right.
You know? Because, interestingly, he was trying to do good for his people, the poor people in the community.
As any good mafioso will do.
Absolutely. He's protecting his people, you know?
It's actually kind of interesting because it's like you take like the crime boss, the mafioso, and he's the one who's like, no, I have to be here for the people. Like whatever he's doing
I'm not gonna
is
leave.
for pure purposes of like, I want to take care of my people.
He got bought off with $1.5 million at the beginning of that movie. Marty negotiated that deal for him with the stipulation he leave town. He refused to leave town because he was going to watch out for his people.
But then like you have the people who are supposed to be the altruistic ones, like, you know, the government officials, the
church,
the church, and they're the ones who are really like doing things for the wrong reasons, doing bad things for bad reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to turn the tables and make it seem like Shaughnessy is the one with the motive, and that Altar Boy actually had nothing to do with it, great. But again, it's not done properly. Again, this guy is not subpoenaed. He is a government official. So he's not calling him in his personal capacity, or maybe he is. It's not really made clear. But even still, if you're trying to call someone who is a government official as a witness, the city has to step in. The city has to represent him.
Well, yeah, and you got to see, does this person, I don't know what level he's at. Does he have immunity? Is it a sovereign immunity?
Right.
Is it not? Does he get provided counsel? Does he have to get his own counsel? Yeah, none of that. None of that. And so...
But like the correct objections weren't even made by the prosecutor. Yeah.
Well, there were some objections,
but not like
and
not
the
extensive.
judge was like, "You need to tread lightly here." But I think it was
said
more
that the whole time.
She just kept she allowed everything in and just kept saying, "Be careful with this one."
Right.
That's not.
Yeah, it was a little
ineffective.
lame. I know it was lame.
Right.
But just don't do it.
Just don't do it. Don't do too much.
Okay, I know you did it. But just don't do it.
Just a little bit.
Just
a tiny bit. Yeah, just do a little bit.
All right. So clearly lots of issues with evidence, witnesses, just a big old mess.
And then if we're going to talk about evidence, I want to also just touch upon the psychologist.
I think we shouldn't touch upon it.
I think we should delve into the psychologist.
I think this needs to be point number 3
because
things that went terribly wrong.
That was the whole
this is the linchpin of it.
It was a strategy from the beginning because Marty did engage her to analyze Aaron.
Because he was like, you know, what's going on with this kid?
What's going on with him?
He's not giving straight answers. He's very, like, he's clearly
So at the
something.
end, we found out that she spent 60 hours with him.
Yeah. Oh, because Aaron said he blacked out and then came
lost
to.
time.
And he's like, so sometimes I just lose time. And so that's what prompted, he's no
like
dummy.
A potential
he says that because he knows that a lawyer
is
going to be like, well, you get like these bouts of amnesia. I have to get a psychologist in there. So he hires Molly, Frances McDormand.
She's a neuropsychologist, apparently.
Right.
To basically interview and evaluate him.
Now, the evaluation is ongoing throughout the trial. This evaluation
makes no sense.
Should have been done. The first thing that should have been done, and should have been completed ahead
before
of the
the
trial.
start. That's why, like, trials do not begin until years after the crime, after the arrest.
Right.
Like nothing happens immediately because all these things we're talking about are things that happen before the start of a trial.
Right.
And the fact that it's happening during the trial
is bananas.
And the fact that it's like the prosecution doesn't even have like really access or knowledge of like what's going on between the psychologist and the defendant, hasn't hired their own independent psychologist. You'd usually have competing experts of this kind.
What should have triggered it is, and we talked about this a little bit briefly offline. What should have triggered it is at the very beginning when she says, "How do you plead?" And Marty jumps up and says, "My client's not going to be pleading. He's going to be pleading the fifth." He doesn't even understand the charges.
Right, because she said, do you understand the charges against you? And then he said, he's not going to be answering that.
And that's where I had a problem because that was the beginning. Well, it triggers a lot though because, he takes the fifth on the charges. So technically he hasn't entered a plea, right? So they make a whole big thing in this movie about I can't change a plea in the middle of a trial to an insanity plea.
But there is no
That's why they wanted to sneak in the tape and everything else. But if he didn't make a plea, that's not an issue.
How do you even go on with the trial without a plea?
The movie made no sense to me in that sense. Because there's no plea. You're not changing a plea. You never entered a plea.
But also, if you don't understand the charges, is there a competency issue? And does that then trigger, in and of itself, does it trigger a competency hearing, evaluation?
Of course it does.
Mental health evaluation?
When there's anything like this that comes into question, especially if you're like, my client can't enter a plea because he can't understand the charges against him, before a trial ever starts, you would have a competency hearing and that's evaluations by separate experts.
Separate proceeding to determine whether he can stand
trial. It's like a mini
trial.
court case, essentially, that happens first to see if they can stand trial because sometimes the defendant can't.
So we now get to the point. So she spends like 60 hours with him. She sees this persona, right? This now split personality.
Glimmers of it. She only got like a split second of it when she was tapping on the camera. And that was it.
Well, she was pushing him about the girlfriend.
Yes. Right, and he's starting to get stressed out.
But it was just one brief thing.
Correct.
And then he just says like, you should know how to do a bitch or something like that. Like, it's a very different, like...
No, he goes, how the fuck should I know? Jesus Christ.
How the fuck should I know?
And that was it.
And it's like, he's this mild-mannered altar boy
and
who's like stutters. And then suddenly he's like
totally
an aggressive person with...
He doesn't have that Kentucky sort of southern accent anymore. It's a very different persona, right? And then Marty comes in to talk to him.
That's when you get the full aspect. Now, I thought Marty put the camera on.
No, Marty turned it off
when they had that conversation.
Why did he do that?
I think because he didn't want. He came in to talk to him about the sex tapes that he discovered.
And that's why
he was accusing him of lying.
And so I don't think that he wanted any sort of record of this conversation between attorney and client.
Because it's attorney-client privilege, right? Okay.
Okay, so procedurally, when a defendant does not enter a plea, the court typically enters a not guilty plea by default so the case can move forward. So maybe that's what happened here, and we just didn't see that happen.
Maybe. They certainly don't explain
But it still doesn't explain why they'd go on with a trial if the argument that the defense attorney is making is that my client cannot understand. Then you're not competent to stand trial.
Right.
Yeah.
There is no trial.
So we're jumping back. So Marty comes in and questions him about the sex tape and is like, you lied to me. You didn't tell me, because now everybody knows about the sex tape and it's clear motive now. Like, you absolutely had reason to kill him, mutilate him in the way that the murder took place. Like, it's sort of very textbook.
Yeah, like someone who's been abused by or wronged by, like there's a vendetta.
Yes, right. And so whatever Marty says triggers, again, we as the viewers think that it triggers this split personality to come out. And Aaron becomes Roy and assaults him.
Really
and
beats the crap out of him.
None of this is on tape. And basically the psychiatrist and Marty, the neuropsychologist.
She comes in towards the end. So she sees some of it.
Right. And they're like, okay, he clearly has multiple personality disorder, a very severe case. And she says, put me on the stand.
She still called it dissociative identity disorder.
Right,
yes,
DID.
She did.
Right.
She did.
Which is a real disorder.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
It is a real disorder
great
that I
movie.
can only, and I'm not an expert in this, but I can only imagine that in order to diagnose someone with this, you need far more than one incident of
an outburst. Right.
I would think.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, I would think so.
Like, we all got a little Jekyll and Hyde in us sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right, of course. And I mean, and I guess they make it clear that the prosecution does not want them to make this argument of DID and that's who, it wasn't him, it wasn't Aaron who murdered the archbishop, but it was like this other person or the persona, Roy.
And also, how easy would it be in a courtroom to say, my client has dissociative personality disorder, whatever it's called, right?
Yeah, identity disorder.
Identity disorder. And my client didn't do it, but that like guy living inside him did it.
Well, clearly we saw how easy it was to try and do that. And I say Laura Linney did a good job.
Yeah.
Basically, like, and she raises a really interesting ethical dilemma. It's still the same person.
Absolutely.
Right? You know, whether
it's Aaron or Roy.
Right, it's still the same person. So does that really shelter you?
I guess the question is, in order to be guilty of a crime, you need to have mens rea. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so if it's the same body, but Aaron does not have the mens rea because he doesn't have the mental capacity, the mindset
to want to.
He blacks out during it. Can Aaron be found guilty of it?
But so that is when he would. That's why
it's still the same person. That's the problem.
But the thing is, it's not like he's getting off scot-free. It's that he would be found not guilty by reason of insanity in that case.
But they made a huge point in this movie, and that's the one point I did agree with them about, is how hard it is to get an insanity plea.
Well, yeah, it's huge. And that's correct. Like, it's very, very rare.
Very rare.
And DID defenses are extremely rare. They're very controversial.
Yes.
And if he is found not guilty by reason of insanity due to DID, like, expert testimony would be aggressively challenged. Like, that kind of testimony from Molly, the psychologist, would be so ripped apart completely, and they would bring in their own experts, and it wouldn't be enough that there was just like one outburst.
The judge did say that if the prosecutor wants to have
their own expert.
Right. And then she's
and
like,
the prosecutor's like, nah, it doesn't even matter, whatever. I mean, it does.
The one thing they did
matter.
get kind of right, or like I thought was an interesting thing.
I think what she was trying to do was she was trying to downplay that.
She didn't want it to be.
That what the neuropsychologist did was just like, was she was kind of trying to think of junk science. Like,
right. She was just like,
trying to dismiss it as junk science.
Yeah, she was kind of speaking to her very dismissively.
Right.
But what was interesting was like, Marty and everyone else who's part of this case knows that he can't change the plea now to insanity. So he has to bring this evidence in, or this DID in, without it seeming like he's trying to change the plea. And when when the prosecutor, when she, what's her name, Janet, when she
Venable, right?
Yeah, when she objects to it and says like, no, you can't change your plea. His argument's a good one, is that I'm not introducing this to change the plea. I'm introducing it to explain why he blacked out and doesn't remember a period of time, like during the murder.
And therefore, but also he says, and therefore he's not guilty because it wasn't him who did it. It was the other guy.
I mean, but that's the bad argument. That's the one that's not allowed.
Right.
Because that one you're trying to say is the insanity plea, basically.
Not really. He's not using it to say that he's insane. He's using it to say that he just has.
I think he's using it to attack his mens rea. Whether he has the capacity to understand what he did.
He didn't do it. That's like because of, basically he's saying it's because of insanity, it's because of a mental disorder is why he didn't do it. That's basically the same as saying not guilty.
Yes, but he's basically like loopholing
but
his way into it.
The loophole that I thought was smart that he was going with is, I'm just introducing this to explain why he blacked out and doesn't remember.
Yeah, you're the one calling it insanity.
Right, you're saying it's insanity. I'm just, this expert testimony, this psychologist is just explaining why he blacks out.
Yeah.
And that's allowed.
And he totally manipulated the situation.
But that part was smart. That's like good lawyering.
I mean, he manipulated the situation. He knew based on his own experience that if Laura Linney went at his client, which she did, that would trigger a response.
The Roy would come out.
Right.
And so it happens.
And the gamble played off.
The Roy comes out. He puts his client on the stand, which, by the way, very rarely happens in a trial. In a case
of
like
that
this,
magnitude,
of course.
Big time.
And so he puts his client on the stand. Like, he had a plan. He knew that Laura Linney would do her job, that she would set him off. The Roy would come out.
I don't know why she would do that though, because she doesn't want people to see the outburst. I don't know.
But she doesn't know that
that's what's going to happen.
She has no idea that that's what's going to happen. She doesn't know that this kid allegedly has two different personalities, and she doesn't even really do anything out of the ordinary. She just does her job on cross.
She would know because we already had the psychologist testify about those, like, the fact that
The
he becomes,
tendencies.
the tendencies, and that he becomes this other guy, Roy.
But she doesn't testify. At least I don't recall that she does. Like, what triggers it? She
Maybe
doesn't
she doesn't,
testify that, like, you have to get him. He's like the Hulk almost, right?
Right. It is
you have
very
to, like,
much-
get
it
him,
is
like,
the Hulk.
you have to, like, anger him.
You wouldn't
and,
wanna
like, the
see him
green
angry,
comes
right,
out.
exactly,
Right.
right.
Yeah. And so she, she says she gets kind of aggressive on cross-examination. And the Roy of it all does, in fact, come out.
And leaps over
The witness stand and starts to choke her and says he's going to break her neck. And it's like a whole
thing.
thing.
Like, they have to pull him off of him. But, like, that outburst becomes proof of his alternate personality. But in reality, I think the judge would likely order a competency evaluation.
I think absolutely.
The proceedings would pause.
Yep.
Everything would be on hold, and there'd be a whole other proceeding.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
instead,
It would not have been an instantaneous decision by the judge.
within the same, like, half hour.
Right.
Like,
She was basically like, great, this is our proof that he is, in fact, unwell.
who would
Not
accept
really.
that? Who would
That's
accept
not
that
at all.
one outburst? And now you're like, I mean,
Yeah.
what about the idea, like, not only the having another expert, but what he could be faking it. He could just be
Yes.
faking it.
And I
Or
mean-
what if this is just proof?
And I mean,
And maybe it's just proof that he has violent outbursts. It doesn't prove that he has a different personality.
Right.
Like, everything that happens from his testimony onward is just a fairy tale.
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so she
It
calls
was an
everyone to
entertaining
chambers.
fairy tale,
It
to
was.
be clear.
Very
found
dramatic.
I found it really engaging.
Very dramatic. And so she brings everyone into chambers and basically is like, I am dismissing the jury and I'm making this a bench trial.
Right.
And I am basically saying,
Which, just to
Not guilty
explain,
by
what
reason
that
of
means is she is saying, we're not going to rely on the jury to make a decision about guilt or whatever. The bench trial means it's up to her.
and
She is it. She's going to make the
and
decision.
she's deciding that he is not guilty by reason of insanity because she has seen this one outburst.
One outburst. My gosh.
And she has decided that, in fact, he does have a split personality disorder.
I mean,
and in
if
fact,
I were
he did not have the mens rea
The fact
or
that the
whatever.
prosecutor is sitting there just accepting this, like, I would get
Well,
the judge disbarred.
Well, the prosecutor says that she absolutely does not want to retry this because the judge says, do you want a mistrial? And she says, well, I'm not doing it. Granted, who can blame her? She almost got her neck broken.
Well, she basically says, I'm not going to do it. Nobody else in my office is going to do it.
But here's the thing. Why? Why is
not?
no one else in
Why
the office
can't
going
you
to
do
do it?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Why not
Right.
retry the case?
Right. And so basically
Well, I think
she's
because
like,
they don't
do
want
what
to go
you gotta
down the
do.
road of everything that went on in
Yes,
the case.
I get it, but that's
you
kind
know.
of...
because she got fired.
Oh,
getting-
right,
yes,
she
of
lost
course.
her
Well,
job.
she did. Well, you don't actually see it, but they
No,
all
no, no,
assume
she's
she's
no,
losing
her
job.
boss says to her, start looking for another job. After
that's like-
after Shaughnessy testifies,
Right. He then whispers,
Yeah.
start looking for another job.
Oh.
Like, she's out of a job.
Yeah.
We know this for a fact.
Yeah.
But why isn't someone else in her office
Right.
taking over? And I mean, I think the implication is that no one's going to want to touch this case with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
But like when you're the prosecutor and that's kind of your job, you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't.
I know. Like you get assigned to the case, you get stuck. Some of them are duds. Like what can I tell you?
Right.
Right? I mean,
And then the other weird thing is, so then Marty goes to visit Aaron.
Well, the judge says
Mm-hmm.
he's going to go where he needs to be. And then the prosecutor says, that's bullshit because he's going to be out in 30 days.
Which is like
Also not true.
And then when Marty even says it to Aaron, he's like, you're gonna like just basically be there for like a month or whatever. You're barely gonna be there at all, and then you're free. That's not true. When you are found not guilty by reason of insanity, like it doesn't produce like imminent freedom. You generally are going to be in a mental health facility for much longer than you would have been in prison. Like
You're locked up
probably until the end of your life.
well, or at least until they determine that you're
no
not
longer
a danger
insane.
anymore. You know, like
You're not
Right,
just allowed
which
to walk
for
free.
him might be 30 days because he's not.
So we then get to the point where Marty walks into
Mm-hmm.
the cell and is like, Aaron, I got some good news for you. I did my job.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of here. And Aaron says, thank you so, so much, kind sir. Please tell Miss Janet that I'm so sorry I almost broke her neck. And this is where I said, you done messed up, AA Ron.
Yeah. That's that is.
I've been waiting all episode to
Oh
say
my
it.
god! You sat on that one. I like it. I mean, and
right.
that was the moment. Like as soon as he said it, even before like the words just came out of his mouth. I was like, well, that's it. He just gave himself up because he's supposed to not remember those violent outbursts.
Right.
But yeah, and that was, I mean, there's a great ending in terms of like movie, like cinema,
And so what the twist of it all, of course, is, and this is where it clicks in Marty's head and Richard Gere's head. He's like, wait a second, you said you black out. You shouldn't have remembered what Roy did to the prosecutor.
Right.
And so this is when Aaron reveals himself to actually just always have been Roy.
And he goes, I love this line where he's like, so there was never a Roy? He's like, oh, it's like,
You're
like,
so stupid.
Like,
Right,
you're so stupid.
yeah.
He's like, there was never an Aaron.
Right. And that's the like twist of it all, that Roy was always the guy in charge and Aaron was just
Convenient cover-up.
absolutely. And it worked.
Right.
And
then,
it worked
and so
so
then there's
well.
the added question of, well, what does Marty have to do with this? Like, now that he has this information, what is his duty? Like, can he disclose
does
it?
he break attorney-client
can he
privilege?
Break privilege for this?
he cannot.
He cannot. And whether this would reopen the case. It
Will
will not.
It will
not reopen the case.
Because this is where double jeopardy actually comes into
This is
play.
the one thing. This is where
double jeopardy
If we
actually
remade
lives.
the movie Double Jeopardy, it would just be this last bit of this movie, which is
Well, he can't be retried for murdering the bishop, but in the conversation, he discloses to Marty
killed his
that he killed.
The girlfriend in the tape.
why can't
Linda.
I think of- Thank you, Linda.
However,
Linda.
the
So
only
then what?
So what does Marty have to do with this information? Well, nothing. He can't do anything because his
It's
duty.
a past act.
It's a past act. And this gets asked, I think, a lot of lawyers is if you know that your client, committed a crime, like, do you have to disclose it? The answer is no. You only have to disclose what you believe is a future crime that this
something
person
that's
is planning.
a reasonably imminent
harm,
harm
danger,
to someone,
or like
yes.
huge financial crime.
Right.
So either you're gonna seriously hurt someone, gonna kill someone, or a huge financial crime. Then that's where you can break attorney-client privilege, and you have a duty
to prevent a crime.
so I
but
have
you
a
don't have a
question.
duty to disclose a prior crime that your client tells you.
And I
about.
think this is where more, because you guys know how much I love true crime stuff, right? So this is, I think, where people have a really hard time with the criminal defense people when they represent like serial killers and things like that, because they may, in the course of representation in an attorney-client privilege discussion, say where the bodies are buried or where things have happened. That attorney can't disclose. All they can do is maybe try to broker a deal whereby they can get their client to disclose in exchange for something.
And convince your client to disclose it and then try to find the way to like make it like
but
sweeten
it
the deal.
doesn't become like part and parcel of our judicial system is that attorney-client privilege is a bedrock. Like it is one of the guiding principles of our judicial system. So you're not going to get representation for people if they think that, well, anything I tell my lawyer, they could just go blab and I'm going to get convicted anyway.
So I have a question, right? I have a bit of a hypothetical. Yes, it's a past crime. However, can Richard Gere's character, can he make the argument that he can break the privilege because based on the heinous nature of the previous crimes and based on clearly this kid is a sociopath, he will undoubtedly commit further crimes because it's too abstract.
The answer
because
is
there
no.
is no,
Right.
there's
There
no,
was no
he has a
imminent
feeling of it.
There
He
was
has to know, like, this
there
guy
was
has
no
to-
imminent threat
Right.
to
This guy has to
somebody.
say, and by the way, when I get out of there, I'm killing this person next. At that point,
That,
that's
yes.
when he can break the
So
privilege.
can he say, well, he's already gotten rid of Linda, so now he's going to get rid of the other guy in the video? But again, that's also a bit of a stretch,
That's
right?
just-
because
yeah,
he
that's-
doesn't say
No,
it
because
out
he
his
loud.
doesn't
assumption.
say it. He could say that, or he can even say,
Yeah.
and Marty, now I'm coming after you because like.
And basically,
Yep.
Richard Gere, Marty, who has really kind of touted himself as this like big shot lawyer. You can't get
And
one
also,
over on me. I got
don't-
one over on you. He's the one who's been played.
He
Roy
got
has
got.
played him the entire
He
time.
got. And
Yeah.
I think what's worse for him is his whole spiel about, I don't care whether they're guilty or
Yeah.
not. It's my job to defend him.
Yeah.
This case, you could see at the end, shook him.
Right.
Yeah.
And now he's questioning that mentality.
Right.
And that's what they all say. They're all like, I don't care if they're guilty or not. I have a job to do. It's just my job.
Well, now you
That's
did it. Well, now
And
you did
it's,
it.
it's really interesting because it bookends the movie very well. Because in the beginning, he's talking to the reporter who's doing the piece on him.
Yep.
And he's
Yeah.
talking about basically like, no, I don't care if they like. My job is to be an advocate. Like this is the job, and
it is the job,
and it's something that I think
not everybody
most
can
attorneys
do it.
I know like have who do a certain type of law at least have like not grappled with it, but thought about it or been asked about it. Like, what is your duty? Is it to the truth or is it to be an advocate? And you're taking an oath to be an advocate. Like that really is your job, and I mean, I dealt with this a lot when I was a litigator.
You do, and quite frankly, when you think about it, it's not your job. You're not the truth finder. That's the judge and the jury. The judge and the jury are the truth finders. You have to have faith in the system and the way that the system is set up. That if there's a truth, the truth will come out.
Wow.
And that's not my job to really present the truth.
What's the very first line of the movie that Marty says? He says, if you want justice, you go to a whorehouse. If you want to get fucked, you go to a courtroom.
And no truer
Right?
words.
That's so true.
No truer words.
That is very true.
Yeah.
I know.
And on that note,
Fantastical.
I think we have...
Yeah,
Case
exactly.
solved,
I mean,
movie
there's
ruined.
there's a lot of it. Like, there's some other stuff that we like, but like we don't have to get into it. But just very quickly, the idea that a prosecutor and a defense attorney who
this bothered you.
Oh, so bothered me.
Oh, yes.
They had a romantic relationship prior to this. And she calls it like a 6-month-long one-night stand, right? So they were together for 6 months.
Yeah.
Pretty recently. The idea that like they can just go and be on opposite sides of this case without disclosing that relationship, particularly to the defendant, who like if I hire a defense attorney, I deserve to know if you've had a prior, especially romantic relationship with the prosecutor, because that could call into question whether I'm getting fully effective, zealous advocacy from you. Are you representing me fully, or now could you be ineffective in some way because your lover is on the other side or ex-lover is on the other side?
Right.
Yeah.
I can see where you could make that argument.
It
bothered you more than it bothered me.
I don't know why it bothered me so much.
But I could see where it would be an issue. But like, I just look at it as like practicalities, because sometimes attorneys are going to know one another.
Sure, as long as it's disclosed.
Sometimes they will have relationships.
And sure, it's like, but it should be disclosed so that the defendant can say, I don't care, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know whether the fact that he was doing it pro bono and it wasn't really the traditional...
I don't think that'll matter if it's pro bono.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if that matters, that it wasn't a traditional attorney-client
No, I think it doesn't matter if he's getting paid or not.
Just because he's doing it for free means that...
He doesn't get the most effective... He doesn't get to disclose... He doesn't have to disclose everything to his client.
Yeah, no, I don't think that...
I think that if Aaron was convicted and then he found out that there was a prior relationship, he could then base his appeal at least partially on the fact
ineffective
that
assistance. Sure. I mean, and he probably would. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, look, if he got convicted, there would be an appeal anyway.
Right.
Like, there's going to be an appeal. It's something of that magnitude.
Sure.
Yeah. And especially if...
And I'd be throwing that in.
Especially if they had gone the route that... Shaughnessy wanted for the death penalty, and he had been convicted, and they wanted to put him on. There would have been a million appeals if he was on.
And this would have been one of them for
sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. How many? I don't know.
VHS tapes.
Oh, that's a good one. I was gonna go the more kind of like macabre route and say like body carvings.
Ew,
that's dark.
How many personalities?
How many personalities? Oh, I love that. How many personalities do you give this movie in terms of the legal aspect of it?
You know what? I'm gonna give it a middle of the road. It wasn't
like a 5?
completely. Yeah, some of it was fine. It definitely wasn't completely, maybe a little lower than 5.
I'm giving it a 2 or a 3.
I would say maybe a 4.
Because it's a legal movie that got so much wrong.
You know what? I think I'm gonna do a 5. Because I really do think that there's a lot of stuff that's super wrong, but then they're like, they try.
I guess.
Well, that's why I go a little lower. I go 4.
Yeah.
Fine. I'll go 3. You go 4. You go 5.
But in terms of plot twist, acting,
amazing.
10 out of 10.
Oh, entertainment value. I highly recommend. Listen,
the best.
Since we decided to do this movie, I've been going around telling. Have you seen this movie? Have you seen this movie? I highly recommend you watch this movie.
I'm so glad I finally saw this movie.
I've been telling everybody to go watch it because I want to see everybody's reaction to it.
I'm so glad of.
Thank you so much for sticking with us, Meredith. I hope we did it justice.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and so I guess We've ruined it.
What are we saying?
Case solved.
Like, case closed. Film ruined.
Oh, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that for next time. Follow us on everywhere you find your podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube at Let's Ruin It Podcast.
We're everywhere.
Check us out on Instagram.
On Instagram, Let's Ruin It Podcast.
Send us your suggestions for movies we can do.
Yes. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye. Happy New Year. Bye.